Que no se muevan, no se muevan, no se muevan, no se muevan. Están todos rodeados.
America, the Department of Transportation just exposed a massive fraud scheme in the trucking industry that's putting untrained drivers behind the wheel of 80,000-pound death machines on our highways. Nearly half of all U.S. trucking schools, that's 7,000 schools, are about to lose their accreditation for falsifying training records, manipulating data, and issuing CDLs to people who have no business operating commercial vehicles. But here's where it gets even more disturbing. This fraud is directly connected to illegal immigration. And we're about to show you some body cam footage of what happens when DPS pulls over one of these fraudulent drivers. Texas troopers just found 23 illegal aliens stuffed inside a sleeper camper of an 18-wheeler driven by a man with, get this, no valid commercial license. This is what happens when we let fraud destroy safety standards.
The Department of Transportation says nearly half of U.S. trucking schools may not be following federal safety requirements, raising big concerns.
What is up, guys? Tyson Delacruz here. Thank you so much for rocking with me. The trucking school fraud and the illegal immigration crisis just collided on a Texas highway. And what you're about to see is absolutely insane. Let me start with explaining the massive fraud that's been happening in the trucking industry, because this sets up everything that you're about to see.
3,000 U.S. trucking schools are about to lose their accreditation.
The Department of Transportation is shutting down 3,000 trucking schools immediately and putting another 4,000 on notice. That is 44% of all federally registered truck schools in America. These schools have been falsifying training data, not meeting curriculum standards, and issuing CDLs to people who never ever received proper training. This, my friends, is systematic fraud designed to pump out as many CDL holders as possible without actually training them.
In recent months, devastating crashes involving big rigs have made headlines across the country.
This crackdown came after a series of devastating crashes involving big rigs, including a deadly pileup in Ontario, California, that killed 3 people, and a tragic collision in Florida when a trucker made an illegal U-turn. Homeland Security says these drivers lacked legal status in the United States, which triggered this nationwide review. Now, let me connect the dots between the trucking school fraud and illegal immigration, because this is where the story really gets disturbing.
Now in California, the state is revoking about 17,000 commercial licenses tied to drivers whose time in the U.S. has expired. At the same time, the federal government is sounding its own alarm, saying 44% of America's truck driving schools may not be following required safety training rules.
Homeland Security discovered that drivers involved in these deadly crashes lacked legal status in the United States, which raised questions about how they got CDLs in the first place.
3,000 already have. Another 4,500 are on the chopping block. And this includes 10 schools here in southern Arizona, half of which already lost their accreditation.
These border states have been particularly problematic because they're issuing CDLs to people who shouldn't even be in this country, let alone driving commercial vehicles.
It is not a one weekend, give us your money and we're going to give you a quick certificate.
With certain school certifications at risk of being revoked, they'd no longer be able to certify drivers, thus leading to a loss of students and likely less drivers.
Legitimate trucking schools require about 4 weeks of proper training, but these fraudulent schools are operating weekend certification mills. Give us your money and we'll give you a certificate. No actual training required. This is how unqualified drivers, including illegal immigrants, are getting CDLs. Now, let me explain what this crackdown means for the American economy, because the consequences go far beyond just safety. With these schools closing, there will be a driver shortage that gets passed down to the consumer through higher prices. Nearly 2/3 of all shipping is done by trucks, and last year, truckers moved $13.5 trillion worth of goods. If there aren't enough qualified drivers to distribute products, we may see shortage on shelves and may see higher prices. This has a massive ripple effect throughout the entire economy. But here's what the experts aren't saying. We wouldn't have this problem if we would have been enforcing training standards all along, instead of letting fraudulent schools pump out unqualified drivers, many of whom are illegal immigrants who shouldn't even be here in the first place. Now, let me tell you about what Texas DPS just discovered that perfectly illustrates why this trucking school fraud is so dangerous. On November 28th, a Texas DPS trooper pulled over a white Freightliner truck on I-35 after seeing it drive on an improved shoulder, a traffic violation that often signals an attempt to evade law enforcement or congestions. The driver was 24-year-old John Ameo from Laredo, and he was operating a commercial vehicle, and get this, without a valid commercial driver's license. This is exactly the kind of unqualified driver that these fraudulent trucking schools have been creating. But when troopers inspected the cab with assistance from U.S. Border Patrol K-9 team, they discovered something absolutely insane. 23 illegal aliens crammed into the trucker's sleeper compartment, hidden behind the driver's area.
Right now I'm going to Tyson. You're gonna go pick something up? Yeah. Like a load? Yeah. You're a truck driver, like for what company? No, it's a private company. Private one. What are they called? Trucking? You like a load? Yeah, that's okay. Okay. Do you have a CDL?
I do, but like I said, I don't have a picture of it on him.
Not right now. Okay. Right now you're alone. You're alone right now, right?
Yeah, I'm alone.
Okay. Could I see what you have in the vehicle? Do you give me permission?
Is it required?
It's not required. You don't have to. I mean,
why you have to? There's no reason you should be searching it.
Okay. I mean, I'm asking your consent, but if you're gonna deny it, then that's fine. But I'm gonna stand by here just for some other units to get here, and I'm gonna run a dog around the vehicle. Okay. But in terms of the violations, you don't have a CDL and you're operating a motor vehicle. You're not supposed to be driving a commercial motor vehicle. Okay. And who are you calling right now? I'm just curious.
Calling my lawyer.
Your lawyer?
Yeah.
All right. Can you just keep an eye on them? We're going to detain you real quick, okay? If we don't find anything in the vehicle, we're going to release you. Right now, we're going to conduct a probable cause search on the vehicle right now, okay? Open it. I can't reach. Open it. Yeah. Que no se muevan, no se muevan, no se muevan, no se muevan, nadie. Están todos rodeados. Get more out. Okay. Ponte tus manos en tus cabezas, ¿ok? Ahorita vamos a sacar.
America, what you just watched is an inevitable result of allowing fraud to destroy our trucking industry's safety standards while ignoring illegal immigration. John Amayo was operating a commercial vehicle without a valid CDL, which is exactly what happens when fraudulent trucking schools issue certificates to unqualified drivers. He was smuggling 23 illegal aliens from Nicaragua, Guatemala, El Salvador, Honduras, and Mexico, using America's highways as a human trafficking corridor. This is why the Department of Transportation cracked down on 7,000 fraudulent trucking schools matters. These schools have been pumping out unqualified drivers who are now operating 80,000-pound vehicles on our highways, and many of them are also involved in human smuggling operations. Mr. Amaya now faces 23 counts of smuggling of persons. He's looking at a mandatory minimum 10-year prison sentence, but he's just one driver. There are thousands more out there who got their CDLs from fraudulent schools and are using commercial vehicles for criminal activity. The combination of trucking school fraud and illegal immigration has created a perfect storm of danger on American highways. Unqualified drivers operating commercial vehicles while smuggling illegal immigrants is an absolute recipe for disaster. This is what happens when we ignore fraud and fail to enforce immigration laws. Criminals exploit every weakness in the system, and innocent Americans pay the price. Let me know what you think about this. Drop it down in the comment section down below. Smash the like button if you kindly would. Share, subscribe, and as always, guys, I'll catch you on the next one.